Welcome, one and all, to another episode of the Hurdle Podcast. We're talking baseball today, playoffs, divisional rounds, NLCS, World Series predictions. Got Luke, Seth, wherever they're on your screen. We're just really going to get right into it. We're going to recap the wild cards a tiny bit. That's mainly when we're going to be previewing the divisionals, and we're going to touch on some weird storylines coming out. One of them being just a bunch of sweeps. So I'm going to share a screen real quick. And then I'm going to pull up that guy right there, or pull up a bracket. So, 3-6 ALCS. I'm going to start in the top left, work your way down. Hope you guys can see the screen. Toronto and Minnesota. Minnesota gets their first playoff win in, 2004. 18 straight playoff losses for Minnesota, which is like a ridiculous record that no team wants to have, yet Minnesota held it for a long time. Really weird series, in my opinion, especially with whatever the hell Toronto was doing managerial-wise. Pulling Berrios, I believe it was in the fourth inning, after three scoreless, 47 pitches. They pay him $53 million over 4 years, and they just yank him out of the game. That made no sense, and then just a lot of really dumb base running stuff. Vladdy getting picked off with second and third, 2 outs.
Yeah.
And then they didn't score, bases loaded, 1 out, I believe, in the 6th inning.
Chapman.
They left a lot of runners on. So, what were you guys' takeaways from the series?
Well, I actually hate the Twins for some reason. I always have, even though I lived in Minnesota. Like, I was always so happy to see them lose. Don't know why, but after they finally win something, you got to feel a little happy for them, especially since honestly, I didn't really think they were going to win this series. The Blue Jays just lineup wise have them outmatched. I mean, Sonny Gray's been fantastic, so Minnesota probably had the pitching matchup in the second game, but with Kevin Gausman on the mound in the first game, the Blue Jays just have to win that, and they didn't, and then they were screwed after that.
Yeah, no, basically, well, I think the funniest storyline is Barrios. We talked about Barrios, he's a twin and then he signs a big contract, kind of sucks. He's better this year, but then, gets eliminated by the Twins, obviously, and not a part of that historic whole deal there. Yohan Duran is just disgusting. Like
Yes.
I have nightmares about that guy all the time. He's like honestly just a scary guy. Like 3 strikeouts to close out that second game. Another dominant full regular season from him. He's pumping 105 on the regular. It just, I mean,
Isn't he
anytime you get to that guy, I mean, you already lost the game essentially. And I mean, yeah, it's just he's disgusting. And of course, naturally, the game ends with Dalton Varsho, who is terrible and is horrible. Like he's so terrible. So here's the thing.
Hey,
Dalton Varsho, they hyped him up before the season. It's only natural. Like they hyped him up the whole trade, the whole oh my God, he's going to change the Blue Jays. They finally have a left-handed hitter, and then naturally he strikes out to end the season for them. So.
hey, I don't want to hear anything about Dalton Varsho. He led the league in defensive run saved this year, so.
Defensive runs scored don't help when you're down 2 in the ninth.
Yeah, I
the
totally
win
agree
is
on Durant.
25.
Yeah.
He's filthy.
Yeah, him and Bautista, I think, arguably have the best 1-2 pitch mix when they go from 101 up top to, well, Duran goes 98 below with a splinker, and then Bautista goes that 92 splitter, and it's the most deadly pitch combo in the league right now. I mean, the Twins basically use Duran like he's Jack Nicholson in The Shining or something. Just breaks through with the axe, and Duran's face pops up, and all the hitters are like, Jesus.
Yeah.
When you have a closer like that, it's a huge, huge thing in the playoffs. That's why, and we've seen the Yankees go deep. I don't know how many years in a row now. They're not in it this year, but they were having the best bullpen over the past half decade. That's one of the main reasons they went deep, and the reasons why they never really paid any of their rotation guys.
Except for Cole.
just relied on, except for Cole, of course, but just relied on Chapman and Michael King and Clay Holmes and these guys over the past few years that they've developed. And now Minnesota kind of has their guy, so which is huge, So yeah, that's another huge reason why Minnesota got in that one. So they get to play Houston,
Who has a
this
lot of
is gonna be-
guys.
who has a lot of guys. Houston is still disgusting. Somehow won the AL West after being a pretty firm second for most of the year. But then the Rangers decided they'd they just didn't want to play baseball in April and May, or sorry, not in April and May, but late August into September. Went on a really cold streak there, and Houston takes the division as the 2 seed. So I know, Luke, it's brutal. It's brutal. None of us like Houston on the podcast, so I don't know anyone that likes Houston. This is gonna be a really weird series because the Twins have already had to use their top 2 guys. They had to use Sonny Gray already. And the Astros have already announced Verlander. The Astros have one of the best rotations in the league, even with Valdez cooling down. They have one of the better bullpens in the league, and arguably the most underrated player in baseball right now. Maybe the 2 most underrated players in baseball right now. So, in their lineup,
Bailey's favorite player in baseball right now.
Kyle Tucker's a dog, and he's going to finish top 3 in MVP. So screw all of you.
He's really good.
Y'all were dogging on me for that pick. He's going to finish top 3 in MVP voting.
Luke.
I don't remember this dogging, but whatever.
So personally, I think Houston's going to win the series. There's just no pitching outside of really Sonny Gray for Minnesota that can really compete with this lineup, and Alvarez and Tucker, and there's too much playoff experience here for Houston not to win this series.
I agree. They just have they have so much experience on everyone left in the AL. It's not even funny. Like the Orioles obviously have 0 experience. The Rangers have guys with experience, but overall not very much. And the Astros just have everybody's been there. Most everybody's been there multiple times. So yeah, I'm going Houston.
Yeah, they'll probably start with like Joe Ryan, who's pretty mid the last half of the season. Like he started off pretty well. I was like, oh man, they got like an actual 1-2-3, not just a 1-2, but he ends the year like 4-5-ish, 4-5-1-ish. It's fine. It's cool that, maybe there's a chance that Carlos Correa can like make up for his sins by knocking out the Astros in the playoffs. I don't know. Pick your poison. Which dirty cheating player or players do you want to lose in this series? I mean, I would obviously prefer that the Twins win, but I mean, they're definitely not. There's not a chance. There's no chance. There's no chance that the Twins win this series. I hope they prove me wrong, but like it doesn't really matter to me what the Astros did during the regular season because every year that they actually get to the postseason, they're just too good anyways. But no, yeah, they're definitely not going to be able to line up Sonny Gray game 1, or probably not Lopez on 3 days. I doubt it, but we'll see. And so they'll probably be down 1-0, and then you're trying to dig yourself out of a hole against a team that's just cheating or not is just good in the playoffs. So I'm sure that Yordan Alvarez will have like 2 or 3 2-home run games in this series, and it'll just be over. Like it kind of reminds me of when the Astros played the White Sox in the postseason a few years back, and it's like, oh wow, I mean, the different reasons, but the White Sox were like, oh my God, they might be good this year, and then they just lost by like 10 runs in every game, and it's just like going to be something like that. Like, congratulations, Minnesota, but just not going to happen. I mean, the Mariners did the same thing last year. Wow, they swept the Blue Jays and then ran into the buzzsaw of the Astros. So probably the same scenario here.
How many games you guys thinking? 4?
It could be 3 though. I probably will be 3, honestly.
I
They
think
might win the Sonny Gray.
They can win the Sonny Gray game.
Yeah.
Because of the staggered matchups. He's going to be playing like the 3-4 guy in Houston's rotation. So, yeah, they'll probably win the Sonny Gray game. But with Houston's lineup, they're bound to win any pitching matchup, which I think is when you have a lineup as good as theirs is, that's the ultimate equalizer. If you can win games against opponents' aces when you're rolling your 3-4 rotation guy out there, those are huge bonuses. So
Yeah.
yeah, this will maybe go 4 games, but this could be a
It
3-game
could
sweep.
easily be 3. Yeah.
Moving down to the bottom left in the AL, Texas Tampa. Tampa sucks. Their
Wait.
defense is
Oh, yeah.
19,000, 20,000.
That's
Like,
crazy.
we
what
get
kind of
under
go?
attendance at our low D1 football games.
I just want to say, I just want to say real quick that the Rays putting out 20,000 fans in in playoff games is absolutely worse than whatever the A's did with their fans this season.
It's true.
Come on.
Yeah, I mean the A's sold out a game this year. Granted, it was for not the reasons to watch the A's play baseball. It was none of those reasons,
Yeah.
but it had to do with the owner. But yeah, really, after a really hot start for Tampa, an extremely disappointing finish. I mean, they got destroyed by injuries this year, especially early on. I mean, they lost Springs early, Rasmussen early, McClanahan goes down late in the season. Literally 3 of their 5 best pitchers go down, and they had to kind of patch it up as the year went on. So for the fact that they won 99 games and were still in the running to win the division even after all those injuries is honestly pretty impressive in my opinion. But then you saw, and then the Wander thing, of course. Like, I don't think we can underestimate how important Wander is to this team.
Oh,
If
yeah.
he even comes back to play another baseball game, who knows? That's still up in the air, but he was the best defensive shortstop in the league. He was hitting 300, switch hitter, gets the platoon matchup on every at bat he takes. And you yank the heart of the lineup out, and it's kind of like what's left. Yandy Diaz, a Rosarena, who's normally clutch in the playoffs. That's really about it. So they're missing a ton of pieces, and Texas just shoved. Montgomery was lights out.
Lights out.
Eovaldi was lights out. And if Chapman doesn't blow games, this Texas team could be pretty good.
No, bigger than Franco being out is the fact that they try to replace him with Taylor Walls, who, if you don't know, is like
The worst hitter.
worst hitter in the MLB. Like, he's so terrible.
He's
Last year
And
in
then made a throwing error.
this dude hit 172 in 142 games in 2022. This year he hit 201 with 8 homers. Like, just terrible. Like, so terrible. So that's even bigger than Wander being out. And obviously McClanahan, you mentioned we talked about the pitching. They lost it all so early. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, were they overrated when they won all those games at the beginning of the year? Probably not. I mean, because of how many people they lost, and it's important to note the pitching. I mean, and Montgomery, man, he's just so good. I was so happy that he did this. Once the Yankees traded him to the Cardinals last year, I was like, okay, so I know that the Yankees lost that trade because Harrison Bader. Well, now we know because Harrison Bader sucks, but Jordan Montgomery was a stud with the Cardinals, and then you get him over there in Texas, and it's just such an awesome move. He doesn't strike a ton of guys out, lower strikeout numbers, but he's just like unhittable. And it's not like he does anything crazy special. He's just so rock solid. I mean, but I guess he's a perfect ace for them. I mean, and you're talking about this too, like it's like, oh, the Rays lost all these guys. The Rangers, they lost Scherzer, they lost DeGrom, like they lost a bunch of pieces too. They still got the job done though, so they obviously deserve to win this, and they're definitely a threat for sure.
Yeah. I don't have much to add.
I'd also like to add, who the hell is Evan Carter, and why am I just hearing about him?
Evan Carter
Because
is
he's
so good.
I was looking at a couple stats like over the course of the game, getting ready for this pod a little bit. Sorry if you guys hear that car alarm in the background, but
Yeah.
his plate discipline is insane. I mean, every count he at least works 2-2, if not 3-2, and he hits in clutch counts too. So it's like he's comfortable in those positions, and that's a dangerous combo. when you got a lefty that's that young, that just feels so present at the plate in those big moments. That's a huge shot of adrenaline for this Texas lineup. I mean, of course, there's Seager, of course, there's like Jonah Heim, Adolis Garcia, those guys, and those guys are going to rake continually through the playoffs, especially the guys that have been there, like Corey Seager. And they draw a really weird matchup with Baltimore. I think, Baltimore winning 101 games this year. I'm still struggling with it personally. I don't really know why. Maybe it's because Baltimore's been like the freaking worst team in baseball the past, like basically my entire life. So I think that could do something with it. I really ever since Adam Jones, this team hasn't been good. So it's just how young and how quickly they developed. It kind of took me by surprise. I was expecting them to be good this year, no doubt about it. But I wasn't ready for triple-digit wins and an insane bullpen, a well-rounded starting rotation, and this lineup rakes. So when they have all this young talent and they're sitting at 101 games, it's a really weird matchup in my opinion. I think Texas can win this series, just with the lack of Baltimore's experience in the playoffs. But it's really a toss-up for me. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree. The Baltimore just has that bullpen, and then they have, I mean, they have the upside, but what are you gonna get from John Means, who started, I think, 3 games in the regular season after being out the whole rest of the year? It was 4. Okay. He pitched well. He didn't strike anybody out, which a lot of times in the playoffs, strikeouts are much. I mean, the intensity's ratcheted up, and just strikeouts are huge in the playoffs. That's why
Big
we've
momentum
seen
changers.
exactly we've seen pitchers thrive that strike lots of guys out in the playoffs time and time again. So Kyle Bradish was fantastic in the second half. If he can keep that up, and then what are you going to get from a rookie pitcher like Grayson Rodriguez? There's less certainty in the Baltimore rotation than there is in the Tampa rotation or in the Texas rotation, I would say.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think one of my biggest concerns is their closer because, Bautista is obviously done. So you're looking at Cano, who is 8 of 14 on the season on saves, 6 blown saves, just the 8. Did you not see that, Bailey? You look confused by that statement
Mhm.
about Bautista. Okay, I
No,
thought for a second, I was like,
no.
oh wait, did you?
I was
No,
just
okay.
I was just thinking about what I said about Bautista earlier.
Okay, okay, we're good then. We're good then. No, but yeah, that's a little bit concerning. The other thing is I mean, yeah, Texas hasn't made the playoffs in a while, but a lot of the guys on their team do have playoff experience, whereas Baltimore is much less free agency built and trade built, so it's a lot of guys they brought up from their own farm system, which is fine, but it just means that none of them have played in the playoffs before, and now they're playing their first series in the playoffs. So whereas Texas, they've already made it through a series. A lot of these guys have already played in the playoffs, so there's that. So it'll be interesting to see how much of an effect that has. And also, a lot of times you have like 1 year wonders on a team, and then they wear out the next year. But it'll be interesting to see if some of the 1 year guys for Baltimore that were so good can carry it into the playoffs. Like, is Aaron Hicks going to continue to not be terrible in the playoffs? Is like Ryan O'Hearn going to continue to be good? He's never been good before. Is the revived corpse of Adam Frazier going to keep doing slightly more than he was expected to do? Like, I don't know. It feels like there's a lot of question marks on their team,
Yeah.
and so it'll be interesting to see. But the only other thing I wanted to say was just one quick. We're not going to talk about him for the rest of this episode, I would hope. But I do just want to say, Jerry DePoto, if you don't start spending money after seeing what Texas just did with all these free agents, then I'm burning this hat.
Would
So,
you like a rant at the end? I'll give you time for a rant at the end.
sure. I mean, I'm down for that, but yeah, sure.
Okay.
Why not?
I saw the quotes, so that'll be an interesting talk. So are you guys taking Texas or Baltimore in this series?
Oh,
I'm taking
Texas for me.
Texas. Yeah.
You're both taking Texas?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that makes it 3 of us. Yeah, I think it's just the lack of playoff experience. The 8 and 9 innings of these games are going to be insane because Chapman's going to come in, give up like 5 or 6, and then Cano's going to come in and apparently blow 45% of his saves. So um, it might be 2-1 going into the 8th, and then all of a sudden it's freaking 10-9, and who the hell knows what happened? There's just dudes on base all the time, and extra base hits from Santander coming in through, and those kind of guys. I also think it's really interesting how even in the regular season how clutch Baltimore is. They got some really clutch hitters on their team. Adley's a clutch hitter. Santander is a clutch hitter. The top of their lineup is sentences because you don't get matchups. You don't get platoon matchups. So I think those are going to be really interesting coming down late in games, how Texas decides to use their bullpen, which is very limited. Their bullpen isn't phenomenal by any means. So
they need those
how they
starters to
choose
keep going deep.
exactly. Like Eovaldi's got to get 6 or 7. Montgomery's got to get 6 or 7 when they turn around and play those matchups. So how they choose to line up their bullpen guys late into games against the top of this Baltimore road lineup is going to be super interesting. But I think it's Texas, but I think it goes 5 games.
I agree.
I do think Texas will lose at least 1 or 2 at the beginning just because their back end of their rotation right now isn't that great. So they'll probably drop at least one of those. I'll take Texas in 4.
4. Okay, moving to the NL, top right of the bracket, Arizona, Milwaukee. What the hell was Corbin Burns doing on the mound in game 1? He just got absolutely throttled by this Arizona lineup. And Arizona honestly fairly surprised me. I think I had Milwaukee kind of just winning this wild card, and I didn't really think about it too much. But Arizona's speed and dynamic ability on the base paths actually kind of really took over and showed in ways that I wasn't expecting. I was expecting guys like Freddie Peralta and Corbin Burns pitch good baseball, and they didn't. So when Milwaukee has no pitching with as garbage as their lineup is on a year-to-year basis, they're never going to win playoff series with how they just can't draw. They get into clutch situations. They have no clutch hitters. And it's really brutal. Even with the good year Yelich had this year, even with the good year Adames had this year, there's just no hitting in this lineup. And
There's
you
not
kind of
enough
saw the
firepower.
youth. Yeah, there's
They
no
have
firepower.
Josh Donaldson in their lineup. Josh Donaldson is in their lineup.
Yes, he is.
AAA Josh Donaldson.
AAA.
I did love the quote from Josh Donaldson though when he came in. He's like, "All these guys already know who I am. They know what I do." It's like, yeah, you strike out 4 times a night.
Watch
I
it
remember
open
like
his
the
right down the
mid-season
middle.
41.
post. There's like a mid-season post, and they're like, the Brewers are calling up Josh Donaldson, and it's like, whoa, who's this top prospect? He's gonna be so good. He's not like 35 or something. Like, okay.
He was good 8 years ago.
Comments on the Arizona Milwaukee series.
Milwaukee's terrible. Like I don't really know what to say. Like Milwaukee, I kind of had a sense about. Like I was shocked that they kind of separated in the back half of the season. Their run differential was fine, I guess, but they played in a terrible division, beat up on a bunch of really bad teams, and their rotation isn't the same as it was. And you said it. They have no clutch hitters, and they are running out Josh Donaldson and a bunch of rookies that weren't that good. So.
Yeah. No, Arizona just
out on
has.
Josh Donaldson.
He's terrible.
He is terrible.
I love it.
Arizona just has the dynamic player that Milwaukee doesn't have. And I mean, it wasn't just Corbin Carroll, but I was watching the beginning of that game and I was like, Burns is so good. Like, Burns just consistently shoves. And there it is. Burns throws a couple good pitches to start that bat off for Carroll. Carroll, a couple big swing and misses, and then just launches a ball 440 feet. Like, it's nothing. And then Marte hits a homer on the next pitch, and it's like, okay, well, Burns is done. And so now the Brewers, they have a good bullpen, but their bullpen can't pitch 5+ innings and expect them to win. and then they got to face Gallen the next day. And when you're already down 1-0 in the series, and then you have to face Zach Gallen, it's not the best recipe to win a 3-game series.
I think the most impressive part is like well, first off, the Brewers bullpen did, or not Brewers, Diamondbacks bullpen didn't get off any runs. And like
Shocking.
they won a playoff game 6-3, starting Brandon Fact. Like
Yeah.
this dude that like had a 5.72 in his rookie season and he's starting game one and he was terrible, but then you put in your bullpen and they just lock him down and then your offense comes out of nowhere and just
Yeah.
catches up to, like, I'm not saying they'll be able to just do that in this next series, but like that's pretty impressive though, because the Brewers are supposed to be a pitching team. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think where you don't see a good bullpen come into effect is it's like, hey, we're down 3 runs, and you're kind of going to your long relievers. You can't touch your superstar guys, and the Brewers never got in position where they were able to exercise their strengths, which is the back end of this bullpen. Devin Williams, who has probably the nastiest pitch in baseball,
Filthy.
and they just never got to exercise that, and instead you got to see their weakness play for all 9 innings of every game, which is their lineup. So um, that's why they lost this game, and they just let Arizona run all over them, and Arizona got to flex their elite speed in this game. You saw Carroll turn singles into damn near triples, and it was just extra base, extra base after extra base after extra base, and you can't be handing those out in the playoffs. So then we get a divisional matchup. Diamondbacks Dodgers. This is going to be LA in 3. So that's literally the only analysis I have. Kershaw's going to shove game 1, and then whoever the hell they have going after that, they're going to be just fine. The Dodgers. There's a reason they're the second best team in baseball right now. Run diff of 207. If that means anything to you guys listen to this podcast, so which it should. Second best offense in baseball. Easily at least the second best roster in baseball. There's no way. I don't think there's any way in hell Arizona takes a game.
If Arizona can somehow get game 1, which they theoretically have Merrill Kelly pitching. I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't have Merrill Kelly pitching. There's at least the door is cracked open, because then you can get the start from Kelly and Gallen, and then you can get Kelly again if you make it to 5. But if they lose game 1 to Kershaw, which is pretty likely, series is over. I mean, it's probably already over, but they have to win game 1 if they want to have any chance of. But the Dodgers lineup is just the Diamondbacks have Corbin Carroll. He's dynamic. He's young. The Dodgers have everyone. The Dodgers have Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman and a million other
JD
guys.
Martinez, who rakes all of a sudden. JD
Yeah.
Martinez is like
They
41. He's just out there raking.
like Jason Hayward still somehow has a 800 plus OPS. Like, they just revive players that should not be revived, and they do it every year. Like, it's stupid.
yeah. Speaking of reviving players, guess who hit 320 games with the Dodgers? Oh, I don't know, Colton Wong. Like what the hell? Like the dude hit. I hate that guy so much. Like he's such a nice guy, but I hate him so much. Anyways, yeah, if they beat Kershaw, which they won't, then they could very realistically win this series, in my opinion. Here's the thing about the Dodgers. Obviously, you know, Julio Urias is not going to play baseball for quite a while. Um, they don't have Bueller back, and they don't have Dustin May right now, so their rotation is slightly banged up. You're looking at like
Yes.
rookies. So you're talking about Bobby Miller making his first postseason start. You're talking about Sheehan making his first postseason start. You're talking about the corpse of Lance Lynn, and you're talking about Ryan Yarbrough. So, eh, it's not very good, but like they're the Dodgers, so they're either gonna like totally dominate, or it's gonna be like another year where the Nationals
They
beat them
lose
out
in
of
5.
nowhere, or the
Which
Braves
I
beat them out of
love.
nowhere. I'm not gonna
The
lie.
Padres.
Yeah, Padres beat him out of nowhere. Like that happens just other than the 2020 season, it happens pretty much
Doesn't
every year. They're like unstoppable. Everyone predicts them to win and then they just lose. So it's not logical. It's just whatever. So and if there was a year where it is logical, it'd be with this current rotation. So if there was a chance that the Diamondbacks could do this, sure, this year I guess, but I don't think their pitching's good enough. They really only have like one or two offensive guys that are impact enough that I think they're going to step up. So eh, I think they'll win a game. They'll win some game in there, and the whole city of Arizona will go crazy, and then
City of Arizona.
the whole city of wherever they are in Arizona will go crazy. Who's the one that said city of? I don't know, but Arizona will go crazy, and then they won't win another game, and then they'll go home happy. And then they'll have spring training again.
God. Oh my God, that was good. Yeah, I think what this is one of the rare series, especially since it's so different from the NBA where it's like NBA, a team wins game one, no one gives a damn. Unless it's like an absolute throttling, no one really looks at that game and say, yeah, that game's going to decide the series. And these games of five, they're huge, especially when the 1 and 2 guys, the 1 and 2 seeds who get to come off their buys, they're throwing their aces early. So they throw them in game one. Verlander's throwing for Houston, Kershaw's throwing here. So Seth makes a great point in saying if they can win this game with Kelly, they get 3 legit chances at winning this series. The only problem is they're facing the Dodgers lineup, which has 4 guys with over 100 RBIs, and Muncy, Freeman, Betts, JD. 3 guys with over 30 homers, and Betts, Muncy, and JD, and Freeman, who had 29. And then Freeman was also a double away from having the first 30-60 season of all time. So this Dodgers lineup is too loaded. It's way too consistent. It's way too consistent. They consistently put up 5 runs a game, it seems like. And that's astronomical when it comes playoff time. If you're putting up 5, like those are big numbers, especially when you have, granted the Dodgers rotation is banged up, but when you have such a well-rounded pitching staff, 5 is huge when you can give them that kind of luxury. So yeah, Arizona has to win game 1 and has to get to 5 to give their 2 best starters at least 1 or 2 chances in this series. And then you might, if you see them take game 1, you could see it potentially stretch to 5, but I just don't see a way they win it. Moving on, Philadelphia, Miami. Did anyone think Miami had a chance in the series? Probably not.
Not with I mean, when you lose Perez and Alcantara,
Yeah,
I mean, you're already at the Phillies are built for 3-game playoff series. Not that I mean, they went to the World Series last year, so they're built for
Wheeler
more
Nola.
than just that. But Wheeler Nola, I watched it last year. I went to both
Yeah.
games and watched us just get massacred by Wheeler and Nola, and Wheeler and Nola did the exact same thing to Miami. Like they gave up one run combined. Wheeler gave up 1. Nola didn't give up any. I mean,
Mhm.
Miami scored
And
1
they
in
can go
each
deep into
game.
games.
Yeah,
They
they're
can pitch
both
105,
workhorses,
110. Yeah.
and they elevate their. I mean, neither of them had a career year this year during the regular season, but it just seems like every time we get to the playoffs, they're just both gonna shove every single time they're on the mound. I don't know what else there is to say.
Yeah, no, Miami's pretty awful. Like their run differential is like below 40, like below -40. Like Jazz Chisholm was pretty mid this year. Uh, they like brought in Josh Bell to try and save their offense,
Hey,
like
Jake
which
Berger. Jake Berger.
and Jake Berger. So they brought in a couple of guys who weren't really good to try and like save their offense, which is kind of a sign of desperation. They're pitching solid enough, but you know, the injuries obviously kill you there, and they just
Yes.
don't have the offensive firepower. It I would have put like my every more like if I owned like multiple houses, I would have put every mortgage on this series. So it like I feel like that was just the most obvious one. Like, congratulations, Marlins, for making the playoffs. I'm sure that's like a great sign for you that like in a year where you shouldn't have made the playoffs because you weren't that good, that you made the playoffs.
That's
But
just a
like
sign of
that
other
their
teams.
time was up though. Like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Would you like to touch on the auction draft 2 months ago and how you're playing Bryce Harper in center field?
Well,
Luke assembled the worst defense in the history of defenses. I just want that
He
to be
would
clear.
somehow have a worse defense than the Red Sox this year.
Or the
He would
Phillies.
manage to piece it together. He literally 3 days after we had the draft, he moved from right to playing first base, and Luke has this man in center. So yeah, now Philly gets to run into the death trap of Atlanta. Atlanta was by far and away the best team in the league this year, in my opinion.
Yes.
Even though their win total even says they're only, I believe they're 5 games ahead of the Dodgers, 5 games ahead of Baltimore, 6 games ahead of the Dodgers. I believe the Dodgers won 100 flat. Their lineup, every single spot hits. Every
It's
spot hits.
ridiculous.
And I legit mean every spot. If you go look at the home run totals, the OPSs, every single spot, especially the top 6, every single location in that lineup rakes. And the rotation is good. It's banged up right now. Fried is questionable to play game 2, which is his located start. That's where he's expected to play. It'll probably most likely be game 3 from what I'm reading. So that is a huge loss if they aren't able to exercise him in game 2. But then you're gonna have a Fried either Wheeler matchup or Fried Nola matchup in game 3 there. I think it's gonna be a great series. I think this does have the potential to go 5, just if you can throw Wheeler or Nola twice, and then you just have to win the games that your best starters are playing. If you're Philadelphia, they're getting hot at the right time. It really gives me shades of last year and what they did last year, but now they have Trey Turner this year, who's caught fire in the second half. He's been incredible. Bryce Harper's fully healthy again. He's been pretty good for them. But he's a huge clutch postseason hitter that you don't want to face in the later innings of these games. And JT Realmuto is still one of the 2 best catchers in the league. So this game or this series could go really deep. I mean, the Phillies are basically the Miami Heat of the MLB. You know, they draw a really low seed and they just power their way through the best teams. And there's a high amount of parity in both baseball and basketball over the past few years. Basketball, the amount of times teams shoot threes in a game. Baseball has just always kind of been that way. So it's luck of the draw sometimes. So this series could go really deep. This series could go 5. I still think Atlanta wins just because Atlanta's bullpen is just ridiculous. They don't have like a guy that has over like a 3.4 ERA. So just the combination of, even if one of Atlanta's starters sucks in these games, they can still come back and win with how insane their lineup is, and it's deep. Like they have guys coming off the bench that can hit. Atlanta's disgusting. I think they'll win this in 4, but I could see it going 5, and I could see Philly winning in 5 at some point.
Yeah. If the Braves the Braves are gonna win game 1. If the Braves don't win game 1, I don't know what on earth happened. Then they might be in trouble. But the game 1 should be a lock for Atlanta. Then if they win one of games 2 and 3, which theoretically, I mean, Wheeler and Nola should be pitching games 2 and 3. If Seyfried pitches game 3 and they win that game against Nola, Braves are winning it in 4. But I still think this honestly, just looking forward, this could be the hardest series for Atlanta. I don't know. They're just the Phillies. I mean, also the Phillies got flaming hot last year, exact same way. Philadelphia is bumping.
Tough place to play.
It is a very tough place to play. Like it is rocking. So I don't know. I still think I would agree that Braves in 4, but Philly, I'm not like supremely confident. Philly they're loaded too, even though they're the 4 seed.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that if you were like gonna pick, well, I mean, unless Texas is an underdog, but like if you were gonna pick an underdog, then it'd probably be Philadelphia. You know, they beat them last year in the playoffs. They, if Wheeler and Nola are Wheeler and Nola as they were in their first start of the postseason, then that's something. Bryce Harper does mash, by the way, so I don't care about his defense, so it's whatever. But
You will when every ball finds the gap.
no Charlie Morton in the series for Atlanta, so they're really down to about. They're also similar to Philadelphia. It's like two pitchers essentially, basically two pitchers and then guys. And the Phillies are like two pitchers and guys. Unless Ranger Suarez does something, which it's kind of rare, but um, yeah, I mean, both teams' bullpen are fine. Offenses are pretty similar. Of course, the Braves are deeper. Like they got this dude Forrest Wall, who was a career minor leaguer till like 29 with the Mariners, like hitting 460 in like 15 games. Like just random dudes. Just everybody hits on that team. So they're obviously have the offensive advantage in that series. And so I would like to say that it would be too tough for Wheeler and Nola, even despite what they did against Miami, who has no offense. But
Yeah.
but I don't know. I mean, there's always like this weird element like about the playoffs that's like, you can predict like by the numbers and like what should happen and then it just like never happens. And obviously the run production is down, so it comes down to pitching a lot more times, but it'll be interesting to see. I definitely think it'll go at least 4 or 5. I don't think there's really a chance that either of these teams gets swept. It'd be really, really surprising if that happens. So I will take the Phillies.
Wow. And how many?
5, just to be fun. I mean, here's the thing: the Braves should win. They probably will, but like, I just really want to. If I was gonna pick a series that I wasn't confident about, which all the other ones I'm very confident about, um, then it would be this one. So I'll take the Phillies in 5, I guess.
Okay.
Fair enough.
So me and Seth could probably do ours at the same time, and then we'll get to Luke's Philly alternation of the rest of the bracket. So LCS, we got Dodgers Braves, of course. I'd probably take Atlanta in 5,
Yes.
maybe 6. Atlanta will, I honestly think, kill LA.
I agree.
Even like they weirdly have the same strengths, but I feel like Atlanta's strengths are slightly better.
Yes.
There's definitely going to be at least 1 or 2 games. These games will be really close. But I think this is where you see the Kershaw choke start, and then after
Love to
that,
see it.
it takes over.
Love
So,
to see it.
just with how nasty Atlanta's lineup is, I forget the series that happened a month or 2 ago. Atlanta ended up taking that series, right? In LA. You guys remember?
I thought
Like
so.
when Acuna Betts was like the prime of the MVP race
Yeah.
right there. I think Atlanta took that series. So
Dodgers won that series.
2-1.
Dodgers won that series.
Wait.
Dodgers won that series. So
Yeah, September 1st through 3rd.
yeah.
No. Atlanta won
No,
that series.
no, the Dodgers. Oh wait. Oh, sorry. Okay, no. You're right. No, I was looking
Atlanta.
at it. I thought. No, you're right. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
I
Atlanta
was
won
looking at it
2-1.
like it was L for. Okay, yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, no,
And then
Atlanta actually. Yeah, 3 out of 4. So yeah.
the series after that, the Cardinals beat the Braves 2 out of 3.
Okay, we're not talking about the Cardinals. So I don't see Luke, do you see the
Wow.
Cardinals on this bracket
That's like the
anywhere?
only series we won all year. Just give it to me.
You won the Padres series? Yeah, I'm gonna have Atlanta and I'll say 6 officially. You're with me on this, Seth?
Yeah. Oh, I'm definitely with Atlanta, but I don't know if I want to be a sheep and say 6. Um, ah, it's hard not to say 6 though, because 5 just
It's the
it seems like
casual pick.
it seems like the Dodgers will get 2, but it seems like the Braves
5 is
just
too
have
aggressive, I feel like.
yeah, and the Braves just are bet like they're similar, but the Braves are basically better in every category, just slightly. So yeah, I'll take them in 6.
And they're healthier.
Yes.
So, and then for our ALCS, we got Rangers Astros, Battle of the City of Texas. So actually don't know where to go here. I'm a little conflicted. I definitely think Houston's rotation's better. Of course, the playoff experience tips Houston. Not that that's lacking in Texas. If Texas had Scherzer and DeGrom, this would be an insane series. And I would probably pick Texas, but I think I'm going to lean Houston here in 6. Just because I'm just going to trust that playoff experience to come through when it needs to. We saw it happen last year. Drug them a long ways. So, yeah, I'm the world champs are coming back, in my opinion, to the World Series again. So, just with how well-rounded their lineup is, Altuve, Bregman, now Pena coming off a World Series MVP, had a decent year this year, if I remember correctly. Not up to the standards of coming off a World Series MVP. He didn't do anything like insane this year, but the pickup of Abreu was really disappointing. He didn't have a homer till like July 4th, so that was really weird. But Alvarez is going to rake, Tucker's going to rake. This lineup's too good. If they can get one of the Montgomery Eovaldi games, Houston's going to win this series.
They won the series. I really should have talked first because you just keep stealing what I was going to say. So
I'll let you go first for the World Series then. So you got
Okay.
Houston in 6-2?
Yeah.
Okay, so Houston, Atlanta. Go for it.
We're going to go with Atlanta in 6 once again.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Atlanta's, I mean, the lineup is just overpowering. And I was talking about strikeouts earlier. This is a time for Strider, who was not fully healthy last year in the playoffs, who didn't pitch. He pitched, but he didn't pitch very well, and he had, I think, it was something, I think it was actually something with his massive quad. But, yeah, if you have Strider and Fried both shoving and a lineup that hits a collective like 820 OPS, it's
And
pretty
Morton's a
impossible.
solid third with experience, like
Yes.
with tons of experience.
He's like
He's been there before
985
plenty of
years old.
times.
Yeah.
He's like 36 or something like that. So
Yeah.
I'm with you on Atlanta. Atlanta, it's just like Houston's rotation has cooled down so much since the pickup of Verlander. Like Valdez has been pretty poor towards the second half year for Framber Valdez standards. He had the no-hitter and then kind of just disappeared off the face of the earth. So that's been really weird. And the back half of the rotation isn't nearly as strong as Atlanta's is, even though Atlanta's is banged up. Trust Atlanta's bullpen more and their lineup 1 through 9. I think after the top 5 is really close, and guys like Tucker and Alvarez are going to have a really big hits, especially Alvarez. Alvarez is a postseason god, so
He's just cracked.
he's insane.
Yeah.
So they're going to have clutch hits. They're going to be close games, but I just trust Atlanta's bullpen more. They've also been there and done it just 2 years removed from that. So I like Atlanta in 6 as well. All right, Luke. So you
we're
got
really original.
Yeah, we're teaming up on this one. So you got Philly and LA in your NLCS.
Yeah, give me the Phillies in 6. I think they're gonna mash off of that LA rotation. I mean, like Bueller is not going to be back the whole postseason, so they're stuck with what they're stuck with, and their rotation outside of Kershaw is just not good, and a bunch of rookies, Ryan Yarbrough. So the Phillies lineup's going to mash in that series. I have no doubt in my mind, and the Dodgers lineup is obviously really good, but I just think the Phillies are going to score more runs. I just think comparatively, maybe the Dodgers lineup is a little bit better than the Phillies, but I think right now the Phillies like rotation in general is just so much better than the Dodgers at the moment. that I just think the Phillies will advance in that series. And I mean, if I'm gonna pick the Phillies to beat the Braves, I'm definitely picking them to beat the Dodgers. So give me that one. And then
ALCS, Houston, Texas.
Max Scherzer closer coming in that series. So nah. But no, give me Houston for no reason other than that they just win in the playoffs. So
Sadly.
And Texas
like
has Chapman.
I don't really have anything to tell me that they should beat Texas necessarily. I think Texas like could win it if they can play well, continue to play well in the postseason. But I just think that especially like against Montgomery, like the Astros against the lefties just doesn't affect them at all. Doesn't even affect Jordan at all. So yeah, I mean, I'll take Houston in 5. They've also just totally dominated Texas this year, so I'll take them in like 5. And then Phillies Houston again, how original, but
Do it.
I don't know. I guess Phillies year oh, 6 Phillies Philadelphia in 6 games.
Any reasons why?
Why they would beat Houston? Because if the baseball gods are real, Houston won't win the World Series.
Well, they're not real. They won it last year.
Well, that last year was last year. This year, the Houston continues to suck. They continue to throw at us and then say that they're, oh, well, why'd they throw at us
Dang.
first? And then, okay, Mr. Homophobe Hector Neris over there. And like, what are we doing here? So, yeah, I got Philadelphia beating Houston in 6.
Over under. Back to the ALCS real quick. Over under on the amount of saves Chapman blows in the ALCS.
I think he'll probably
Because
stop closing games after the first one.
they
He,
continue to use him in safe situations. It's ridiculous.
yeah.
Which
Well,
which is so weird because the stats tell you that they should be going in the opposite direction. Because in non-save situations, he's got like a 1.4 ERA, and then safe situations, he's got like a 6.7. So
I'll tell
why
you what,
continue to have him close?
Sounds like
it's
Giovanni Gallegos.
it's gonna be
Yeah.
fun. It's gonna be fun because this year in the ALCS, Chapman is going to take Robbie Ray's place as the guy that gave up the walk-off home run to Yordan
Jordan.
Alvarez. So, yeah, and we can stop talking about it.
Yeah.
So that'll be
I
good.
didn't bring it up. You're the one who brought it up. I mean,
Not you, but just like
He's just saying in general.
yeah, I know.
as long as Robbie Ray is still on this team for some reason, it'll continue to get brought up.
Okay, so
So
Luke's got Philly in 6 against Houston. We got me and Seth have Atlanta in 6 against Houston. Luke, Jerry DePoto, the floor is yours.
yeah, so Jerry DePoto comes out and says the other day after Cal Raleigh comes out and says that shockingly enough, you have to have good players to win baseball games. That oh well, I just don't think that spending money in free agency is the way to do it because, we continue to develop and trade. And we continue to develop and make absolutely garbage trades. Colton Wong sucks. Teoscar Hernandez struck out like 800,000 times. His on base percentage was barely even above 300. Dude was absolutely horrendous all season long. We continue to make these big trades that are supposed to, like Jesse Winker completely bombed out. So it's like, okay, don't sign guys, just make these trades. And they continue to absolutely fail. So now we're going to go ahead and once again not sign anyone and continue to be a mediocre bottom of the barrel offense with our pitching that is going to continue to carry us. We're going to talk about the bullpen and blah, blah, blah. And then we're going to have another division. I'm sure we'll get off to another like 10 game under 500 start where it's going to require another 18 game win streak to get back on the map again. And then it'll probably be just like this year where we bomb out in the last month of the season because we ran out of the reserves of whatever offense we thought we had, which isn't there. I, I like you can't come out as a general manager and just say no, we're not going to spend any money. And I guess he like supposedly apologized today, but apparently, and now you got like the players who spoke out and said we need to sign guys coming out and apologizing for saying we need to sign guys because it was mean or something. Like how many more years can we be mediocre and irrelevant until we decide to like do something different? I don't know. We'll see, I guess, but it's not working out. This whole trade master Jerry thing is a total sham. He's not good at making trades. It's just like we need to try something different, or we could just also fire him. That's also an option that I would be very on board with, firing him. And that is
Yeah.
and you could fire Scott Service too, because how do we continue to bring in guys offensively that are good and turn them into the worst hitter in the MLB? And then similar to Colton Wong, they go anywhere else and all of a sudden they're good again. So
And apparently Adam
I think
Frazier
those are
too.
all, yeah. I think those are all valid points. I think, honestly, aside from the free agency stuff, and correct me if I'm wrong, the quote about we want to be a 54% win team over the next 10 years. I don't know if you guys saw this quote from Dipoto. Um, that was the goal that he set. Was a longevity goal, which I've never seen a person analyzing a team in that fashion. I mean, for your goal to be an 86 win team every year for the next 10 years, I understand. I mean, that puts you in the playoffs basically every year. But that basically puts you as a 6 seed every year going into it. So it just means you're never going to cash in. And it just kind of doubles down on what Luke was saying, which made no sense to me. He came out and said it the day after. He apologized today, I'm pretty sure. Um, and for him to kind of just double down on the statement of, I mean, the guys in free agency haven't entirely worked. I mean, Cano's, of course, the big one that you can point at over the last 10 years. And it's like, hey, I mean, with the PED usage and stuff like that, he didn't play a ton of games. But when he played, he was still a good player. There was no doubt about that. Um, but for the years and the money, you could say it absolutely wasn't worth it. But for him, for this organization to be in the position it is now, you got Gilbert, you got Kirby, you got Castillo. So you have a three-headed monster as your starting rotation. You're developing young guys. Brian Woo's up and coming. Bryce Miller, I believe is his name, up and coming. So he got his first starts, I believe, this year, correct? So you have that. You still have a top 3 to 5 bullpen in the league, even after the trade of Paul Sewald. And you have arguably the best young player in baseball who caught unprecedented fire in the last half of the year. J-Rod was probably the best player in baseball in the second half. So for you to say that you don't want to cash in on all this young talent you have, now's the time, because you haven't signed a majority of these guys to ridiculously expensive contracts. I mean, you look at the blueprint. The Braves way is the way to do it. Once they have their first good year, you sign them 8 years, 60 million, get the deal done, and out the door. You have them for their entire primes for cheap as hell, and you get to build a legit roster around them. That's the way to do it. If you cash in early, not we play the waiting game and we want to be good for longevity. The Braves are still going to be probably the best team in baseball for the next 8 years because of how they cashed in early.
Yeah.
And Seth's smiling, but that's a legit factual statement.
Yeah, it's true.
They got all their guys through 2028. So the approach makes no sense to me. I mean, you're going to wait on all these guys and have to pay all these giant ass contracts to really good players. You're going to have to overpay to keep them in Seattle. Otherwise, they're going to go to better teams for cheaper and try to win a World Series that way. And you got J-Rod for the long term on a good deal. So you did that correctly. But now you don't want to do anything else correctly and cash in on all this young talent you have. It makes no sense to me. Even though they're doing it, they're trying to do it through the trade market. Like you said, Luke, their trades blow. They're terrible.
They suck. And we keep
I mean,
trading.
Jesse Winker was terrible.
We keep trading
So
top prospect. We keep trading all these prospects for these guys too, and then he talks about how much he cares about like development and prospects, and then he trades them all away for guys that like Teoscar Hernandez that he keeps for 1 year and he's not going to resign, or Colton Wong who was here for half a year because he sucked so bad. And like instead of like you spend money on free agents, sure you got to spend a little extra change maybe, but then at least you're not giving up any of these prospects for him. So I mean, that's like the different approach that you could take with it. The other thing is like too, like, yeah, okay, Luis Castillo is a great pitcher, blah blah blah, all this stuff, but like that's another failed trade in my opinion. Like that dude was awful in his last few starts of the season. You're talking about this dude trots out there, absolute must-win game against Texas, second to last game of the season, and he was horrible. And he lost, and he basically blew us the season right there in that game. And like, sure, there's a whole culmination of things over the season that lost us that's the season. But like that game, you expect him to go out there and do what he does, and he didn't do it because he had fine enough numbers all season long, but he was never truly dominant. It's because he's just
at the
not
start of the
built.
year, I'd say he was. Start of the year, he was red hot.
Start of the year, he was
First five
purely
starts.
dominant. The rest of the season, he was solid, but he was never really dominant. Pretty usually when he was even not giving up any runs in a start, it was like six. It was like 6 innings. He gave up like 5 hits and 4 walks, and worked out of like 3 jams. Like it was never like dominant, but run wise, it was pretty good. I don't know.
Who'd you
It's
move
fine.
in who'd you move in the Castillo trade? I remember Marte.
Marte
Was that like
and
the prospect?
Arroyo, who's in
Yeah,
AAA
Arroyo.
for the Reds, and Williamson, who debuted, I think, with the Reds this year too. Maybe.
Okay.
I think it was him.
That sounds right.
Any
Yeah.
comments to add, Seth, on the Mariner on Dipoto over the last couple days?
It's just weird how they did. I mean, the J-Rod thing. You do the J-Rod deal, but you don't want to continue. Like it seems like you take a step in that direction, and then it's like, okay, we're not going to do anything else.
Mm.
We like look at the Angels. How long have the Angels had the best player in baseball for and done nothing? Like it's not like this has never happened before, and it's like, oh, they're gonna try this, and it looks like it's not working, but it could work. We've seen it happen multiple times, and it's just I don't. The teams that don't adapt are the teams that don't win. Like,
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
want to turn into the Oakland A's here, like where we have all these dudes and we're just like the sneaky team every year that sneaks into the back end of the playoffs every year, and then at the end of this whole run when we run out of money because all the guys hit their contract year at the exact same time, and we traded all our prospects away with these one and done trades that we had to then trade everyone to restock the farm system and be the laughing stock of the MLB. So yeah, I mean we need to start getting some of these deals done before they get too expensive. He did say like he's trying to get a deal done with Cal Raleigh or whatever. There's like 5 dudes who should have deals like the Braves deals already. So yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Completely agree. And then just to add on a little bit to the J-Rod part, make they made the smart move there. That was the
Mhm.
correct decision. While I
yes,
was a little bit, well, me personally, I was a little bit skeptical just because I think I saw the dollar total and was like, whoa. I mean, 13 years is 310, if I'm not right, 310 million. Um, it can get up to four over the 13 years. But then you look at it on an AAV basis, you take out a couple of the incentives, and which are pretty high up there. It's like top five in MVP voting, stuff like that. Um,
which you want him to
and
do.
exactly
That's
which
worth
you
the
want
money.
him to do. Exactly, it's worth paying the money.
You also get
So
like
you're
you
you're
get
getting
like
value
draft
there.
picks and other rewards and stuff when they win awards. So it's like it's not like you're
Exactly.
just getting punched in the wallet every time he wins an award. Like you're getting stuff back.
And you're
Exactly.
getting
There's
one of the
compensation.
best players in baseball.
Yeah, exactly. You're not only getting his play, but you're getting stuff on the back end that helps that, and you're willing to pay the 2.5 million extra or what it is, whatever it is, for him to win MVP or whatever the case may be. So for them to make the smart move instinctually the first time with their best player and have really, really, really good players. Kirby is a very good very good starter. As is
Yeah, he
Gilbert.
shoved in
So,
that last game too. He's done, and then he shoved in that Astros playoff game as a rookie. Like that dude's just a stud. He sucks against bad teams, but he's really good against good teams.
and those are things he can fix, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's really young, so you got to get these deals done pronto. It's just the winning way of baseball right now. Unless you have a payroll that is LA Dodgers esque, and
Yeah.
you're allowed to do that, the way to do it is how Atlanta is doing it right now. Get your
Yes.
guys in steals of trades. The Matt Olson trade has proven to be the best trade in baseball for the winning side of a trade. Is probably going to be the best trade in baseball since the Mookie Betts trade. Because they got to get out of the Freeman contract and up into the Olson contract for longer years. He's played just as good as Freddie Freeman this year, and they get him for like a third of the price. So, what on the Freeman aspect?
He's not
You're
as good as
shitting me?
Freddie Freeman. Calm
No.
down.
But
But
they're if we were to do first baseman, they're in the same tier, in my opinion.
well, yeah, because
So
they were the two best first basemen in baseball this year.
exactly, and there wasn't anyone else really that close. So,
No.
that's a huge win for Atlanta.
Yeah.
You got to do deals like that, and not the thing that Dipoto is doing, where you're taking these prospects, but you're not cashing in on anyone who's legit. Matt Olson was a legit hitter in Oakland before he moved to Atlanta, and now Atlanta has that coaching staff. He blossoms. So you're not seeing that happen in Seattle, where you can't go get the big piece on the market, which is something, honestly, I think Seattle really needs. I mean, they got the Rodriguez deal, but if they opt in on these earlier deals for Gilbert, Kirby, the young guys, Raleigh, you can go out and get Juan Soto. That is a legit option, and you won't be pressing cap room extensively. And Juan Soto is a top 5 hitter in baseball, undoubtedly, no matter where he goes. I don't care how bad your coaching staff is, you can't make Juan Soto a bad hitter. So, it doesn't make a ton of sense.
Yeah.
No.
And the other thing is like the only thing I'll say about Juan Soto is like I don't care if the dude hits 230. If he continues to get on base at 420, like what did the Mariners not do last year? Walk ever, strike out every at bat. Like that's what they did. So I would love to have that guy like that. Like I don't care like if his average is a little bit lower than a totally elite average. Like the bombs and the on base, like we desperately need that. Like I would, yeah. The free agent market isn't very good anyways, but like if we somehow like got Juan Soto or swung a free agent contract for Shohei Ohtani, I wouldn't be upset.
No, I wouldn't be upset acquiring 2 of the 5 best players in baseball either. So,
Yep.
yeah, I think that's going to do it. Playoff recap. Once the season is over, we're going to reconvene. We're going to look at some interesting spots from the playoff teams. For example, if I chose Toronto, what does Toronto need to do besides get a better freaking manager and not get thrown out at second? Things like that. Roster moves. We're going to recap free agency. We'll predict Shohei Ohtani's $1.2 billion contract he's going to get this offseason.
He won't pitch next
stuff
year,
like that.
so I don't know if it'll be 1.2 billion.
Yeah. I mean, he'll get
1.1.
30 for this year and then 70 for the next 10 years after that. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun episode. We're going to recap the season a little bit, preview into the off season. And then we're going to do our end of the year auction draft. So, we're going to get Nick back for that. Seth won the last one by vote, but it was rigged. So,
How is it rigged?
much like the 2020 election, we're gonna have to veto some of the votes that were going on.
How was it rigged?
I'm kidding.
Wait, I
I'm
actually
kidding.
want. Oh, okay, okay.
No, it's not. It's not. I'm
I'm
joking.
saying.
Yeah, no more Carlos Rodon picks from me.
Yeah, that was unfortunate.
Or Michael Harris.
Michael Harris was amazing. I forgot to mention that. That was such a great pick.
Shut up.
He hit 293.
Yeah, but didn't Logan get like J-Rod for 50, and then he ended up being the best freaking player in the league like
And he
2
went
weeks
crazy.
after. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna redo the auction draft with a little new format. We're gonna make it faster. It's not gonna be 3 hours long. So, those are the baseball stuff to update. We'll probably actually do an ALs after the divisional series. We'll do ALCS, NLCS recap or preview, and then we'll do a World Series preview. So those are all the baseball. That's all the baseball content you can look forward to. Twice a week we're doing football. One NFL episode, one college football episode, and then coming up this week is a podcast with Avery. We're going to go over the Dame Lillard trade, the Drew Holiday trade, and whatever the hell Phoenix was doing in that. So,
Damian Lillard, oh my God.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson arc. The Russell Wilson arc has begun for Damian Lillard.
Except he's not on the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, except he came out and said, "Oh, well, I hope when my time here is done, I can go back to Portland and they won't hate me for what I did." And then he released a rap about it. Like, what the? He's such a clown, dude.
Yeah, and maybe now that I know Luke's take, maybe he'll be on the podcast. So, for everything Hurdle Podcast, Instagram at HRDL Podcast, Spotify, Hurdle Sports in the search bar. Go check us out over there. Subscribe, like the channel. Give us your World Series prediction down below in the comments. That's going to do it. Seth, Luke, we're out, guys. Peace.
See ya.